Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another Mortal Kombat video. Today, seeing as we are drawing closer and closer to hopefully a Mortal Kombat 12 reveal trailer, Ed, please give us something. I thought that today we could do another reboot episode, this time centered around one of the most sinister antagonists in Mortal Kombat's history. The Eater of Souls and treacherous snake of the Mortal Kombat franchise, Shang Tsung, the most ruthless opportunist to have ever graced the franchise. And that's saying a lot, especially considering the nature of the series itself. Now, no, we're not going to be talking about Supreme God Death King Shang Tsung. That deserves a video in itself. We are instead going to be putting a fun twist and spin on this character if he is to return during the Great Kung Lao era, putting a very new yet familiar twist on a character we've all come to learn to love to hate. Now, for those fairly new to this series, the Reboot saga is designed to take characters that we've all come to love and place them during the Great Kung Lao era due to Liu Kang's ending in Aftermath. The thing is, as of making this video, NetherRealm are yet to clarify on what ending from Aftermath is truly canonical. Thus, this is all 100% theoretical at best. But in order for us to interpret how a character from the present could fit into this time period, we must look at the overall canon of the older games, as well as what lies in the rebooted canon, to draw ideas and concepts for how such a character as villainous as Shang Tsung could fit into this time period. But before we do begin, as always everyone, I would of course super appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up. And if you like what we do here and wish to stay up to date with all things Mortal Kombat related, whether that be news or lore, please don't forget to subscribe, as well as tick that bell to stay up to date with everything going on here. But anywho, let's jump right into things, shall we? Now, to really talk about a character like Shang Tsung and truly understand the nature of his character, let us first do a brief coverage of the character's own history and talk about how his time across the series could essentially impact the present in this very new and very different interpretation of Shang Tsung. Now, Shang made his first canonical appearance in Mortal Kombat 1, being the second prime antagonist after Goro. Together, they were destined to conquer Earthrealm at the request of the Emperor Shao Kahn. But to their surprise, the duo would be defeated by a Shaolin monk prodigy known as Liu Kang. This would send the two back, groveling for the forgiveness of the Emperor. Upon doing so, he would be revitalized and brought back to his youth for Mortal Kombat 2. However, both of these individuals would be defeated by the Shaolin prodigy. Thus, Outworld's invasion of Earthrealm would be halted for the second and third time, leading to Shao Kahn becoming extremely weak and even losing control of Edenia. Following Shinnok's invasion during Mortal Kombat 4, Shang Tsung becomes a prime and very big antagonist during the 3D era of games, having partnered with the necromancer Quan Chi, currently in possession of Shinnok's amulet. Together, their combined efforts lead to the demise of both Shao Kahn and Liu Kang, setting forth a sequence of events that no one could have predicted. With their combined power, they seek to rejuvenate Onaga's undead army, an undead militia that was never known to suffer defeat. It was seen as the perfect weapon to use against any enemy. That is, until Onaga himself returned back from the dead. From this point onwards, the Deadly Alliance would crumble, and Shang would become a side antagonist during Armageddon. But as the apocalypse unfolded, Shang would be one of the many combatants to perish during the Battle of Armageddon. But his demise wouldn't exactly be a permanent one, as he would later return, with the timeline being reset during Mortal Kombat 9, so events do unfold in a very similar manner. However, due to the butterfly effect and alterations that Mortal Kombat 9's narrative has, Shang Tsung actually perishes during the Mortal Kombat 3 section of the game, where his life force is drained by Shao Kahn and put inside the recently revived Sindel. Now of course, this wasn't truly the end of the sorcerer, as he returns during Mortal Kombat 11, playing a key role in the Aftermath DLC, where he is a huge player in obtaining Kronika's crown. And of course, his treacherous nature bleeds to the surface, where he defeats the Earthrealmers by secretly aligning with Sindel and Shao Kahn to then betray them and defeat Kronika himself. From this point onwards is where the ending does split off in two different directions, where in one scenario, he is defeated by Fire God Liu Kang and is rendered to ash, and in 2, he defeats the Shaolin and then goes on to acquire the Hourglass of Time, ushering in a new and very uncertain future. So with all of these ideas in mind, and us clearly getting an idea of the sort of character that Shang Tsung actually is, how does he fit into the Great Kung Lao era? Well, this is where Shang Tsung's origin actually come into play, because whilst not explored in detail, we do know that prior to the first tournament, Shang Tsung represented Earthrealm in an ancient tournament. He was a strong and very talented fighter. However, Shang Tsung would go on to violate the sacred rules of Mortal Kombat and be banished from the tournament, cursed by the Elder Gods to age at an increased rate. As he was dying, Shao Kahn saw an opportunity to harness the potential he had. Thus, the Emperor would take him in and teach him dark magic. Repurposed and reborn, Shang would fight on the side of Outworld against his former allies, defeating and killing them before becoming the next champion of Mortal Kombat. His reign, however, would be short, as he would be defeated by the Great Kung Lao. So, with this idea in mind, how do we mesh it into the Great Kung Lao ending? Well, let's kind of change the status quo a little bit, because as much as I love seeing Shang be a villain, he has always been a wild card of sorts, with his only real allegiance being to that of himself. And as pointed out here, Shang didn't start off inherently being evil. He was purposed for good before he was preyed upon by Shao Kahn. And I think someone like Liu could look at Shang and see the potential for good he does have in him. So he could allow Shang to continue to exist in this reboot, especially considering how the Mortal Kombat tournament may be something completely new in this timeline, meaning that Shang would never be in a position to fall into Shao's clutches. But there are two other factors that come into account here. 1, Onaga's reign, and 2, the absence of Shao Kahn. As we have historically seen, Liu is extremely familiar with Shao, so much so that I don't know if he'd allow someone that dangerous or that influenced by the One Being to once again return. So it would fall into the hands of Onaga to then become the next primary villain. We also must take into account that we haven't seen Onaga since Armageddon, a return that many of us have been waiting for and pretty much expect to see for 12 itself. Narratively, with Shao out of the picture, Shang no longer has someone that can prey on his weakness. So we could have a very different Shang Tsung, portrayed as a hero, but maybe one that tethers on the line of anti-hero, opposed to just straight up villain. With that in mind, you could have a very interesting dynamic between the Great Kung Lao and this somewhat heroic interpretation of Shang Tsung, where the young upcoming Kung Lao, who's thriving with potential, is envied and looked down upon by a much older and grizzled veteran in Shang Tsung, not seeing the potential in the young man out of arrogance and his self-absorbed nature. What's also quite interesting, it would help add another layer of jealousy, is that during the development of Mortal Kombat 1, Shang Tsung's original name was Shang Lao, so you could reincorporate this idea that as an Earthrealmer, that he went as Shang Lao before abandoning it upon joining Outworld. So with Lao in his name, he could very well see the Great Kung Lao as someone looking to tarnish his name, or someone that he doesn't see is worthy to carry the legacy of his name. So to say, there's interesting ways to kind of paint this very bitter Shang Tsung being outshined by the youth despite his prestige and experience. Maybe you could have it even be so that he's envious how this young man has gained the approval of martial art greats like Bo Rai Cho instead of himself, being naturally picked by Fire God Liu Kang over himself. There's so many ways you can kind of do it. And if you want to show the sheer contrast between these two adversaries, you could have it that Kung Lao is this honorable warrior who respects his opponents in combat and shows them mercy, whereas Shang Tsung is far more ruthless in his approach, showing signs and influence from the Shang of old that we are all familiar with. So if you actually think about it, this could fundamentally be an origin story that shows the rise of the Great Kung Lao and the downfall of Shang Tsung as he slowly begins to lose his grip on his sanity and his way, with this new Shaolin monk casting a shadow on his glimmering star, even going so far as to abandon his title by the end of the game and then maybe switch sides, becoming an adversary by the end of this game, or maybe setting him up for the next one. I think doing this is a healthy way of reinventing the character. We are currently now in a stage of Mortal Kombat where we don't have to retrace the same footprints step by step. It adds a new coat of paint on characters that may otherwise become quite plain from redoing the same story arc time and time again. And maybe you can also see that despite Liu Kang's optimism, it seems like Shang's downfall is a fixed point in time, regardless of whatever era he's in. But with that said, guys, do you think an idea like this works for Shang Tsung in the Great Kung Lao era? Would you even want to see him return, or maybe even explore his ending in Aftermath as separate DLC? As I'd love to hear what you all have to say. But for now, everyone, that has been it for me. So as always, stay strong, stay well, and keep on fighting as we all eagerly await the next Mortal Kombat game. Take care, everyone. I'll see you all soon.